Hi, glad you're here. Enjoy the story. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Graham Sullivan was 42 and absolutely convinced he understood his wife to her core. After 14 years of marriage, 2 teens, and a tidy home in a calm Austin suburb, he believed their life was as predictable as the sunrise. Every morning he woke at 5:45, brewed coffee while Danielle finished getting ready, dropped their boys at school, and drove to the logistics company where he'd kept operations running for nearly 10 years. Evenings were a routine blend of dinner, a bit of television, and early bedtimes. No drama, no surprises, just a steady rhythm Graham considered the truest form of love. Danielle, 39, handled numbers for a mid-size accounting firm downtown. She'd always overseen their household budget, the taxes, the bills, everything money-related. Graham never saw a reason to double-check her work. She was the expert, and his trust in her was as automatic as breathing. He never bothered reviewing their joint account either. Whenever he needed cash, he simply withdrew it. If Danielle said their finances were fine, that was enough. Their sons, Lucas and Benjamin, 15 and 13, were normal kids. Lucas, tall and energetic, chased dreams of a basketball scholarship. Benjamin preferred the glow of a computer monitor and wrote code for fun. Graham adored them, even though conversations lately had shrunk to short texts and mumbled replies. Teenagers, he told himself. Nothing unusual. But on a Tuesday in March, the first fracture appeared. The bank called to say their shared credit card was almost maxed out. They wanted to know if he'd like a limit increase. The comment puzzled him. He couldn't recall anything expensive being bought recently. That night at dinner, he mentioned it. Danielle calmly explained she'd paid ahead for some of Benjamin's birthday plans. The explanation seemed harmless, and Graham accepted it without questioning a thing. 2 weeks later, he suggested they visit the bank together to talk about adjusting their mortgage since interest rates had dropped. A co-worker said they might save money if they renegotiated. Danielle agreed, but with the faintest hesitation, a tiny moment Graham barely noticed or mentally shoved aside. They met with Harold Simmons, their longtime relationship manager, in a chilly glass office tower downtown. Harold, a gray-haired man with a polished smile, walked them into a private room, offered coffee, and pulled up their accounts while discussing refinancing options. Graham listened carefully, asking about fixed rates, when a small crease appeared between Harold's eyebrows. Harold clicked around, his expression shifting from puzzled to guarded. "Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan," he began gently. "There's something our system flagged that I need to verify with you." Graham felt Danielle tense beside him, so subtly that only someone who knew her intimately would notice. Harold rotated the screen toward them. "We've detected a series of unusual transfers from your joint account over the last several months," he explained. "Recurring payments to an external account not tied to any vendor or service. We need to confirm whether you authorize these." Graham leaned in. "Transfers between $1,500 and $3,000 every month, always early in the month. The recipient's name, Colton Reeves." The name hit like a lightning strike. Colton, the personal trainer at the gym Danielle visited 3 times a week. Graham had met him once. Late 20s, chiseled build, thin skin, and a grin that bordered on smug. Graham had brushed off his unease back then, embarrassed at the thought of being jealous. "Honey," Graham said quietly, surprising himself with his own composure. "What are these payments?" Danielle stared at the screen, color draining from her face. When she finally spoke, her voice wobbled. "They're investments. Colton recommended a fund. He knows a lot about finances." Graham cut in. "He's a trainer, Danielle, not a financial advisor." Harold awkwardly excused himself, offering to reschedule the mortgage meeting. Graham agreed, thanked him, and walked out with Danielle in silence. Her heels echoed across the marble floors, as if they were marking the countdown to the end of something. In the car, with the world shut out behind closed doors, Graham asked the only question that mattered. "Who is Colton to you?" Danielle broke. Not a delicate sniffle. She crumbled, sobbing until her makeup streaked. Between gasps, she confessed. She hadn't meant for it to happen. She'd felt invisible. Colton made her feel alive. The affair had lasted 8 months. They met outside the gym. She paid for dinners, gifts, little getaways she pretended were work trips. He couldn't afford much, so she helped. Graham didn't scream. He didn't slam anything. He simply stared ahead and drove home in wordless silence. That night, he took the guest room, retreating into a quiet corner of the house to grapple with the truth. Before dawn, he rose, made coffee, and sat alone at the kitchen table. He wasn't impulsive, but he wasn't naive either. He needed to know everything. Danielle's phone sat on the counter. Her passcode pattern was one he had helped her set years earlier. He unlocked it. The truth was waiting. A hidden gallery folder, protected by a secondary password. He tried her birthday, their anniversary. Nothing. Finally, almost bitterly, he tried Colton's birthday, the one Danielle had once mentioned offhand. It opened. Photos of her and Colton at restaurants, beaches, hotel rooms. Selfies she'd never once taken with her own husband. Videos of moments that should have belonged only inside a marriage. He kept digging. Screenshots, messages, plans to run away together. Complaints about Graham, boring, distant, predictable. Colton responded with sugary words followed by gentle nudges for money, rent, car repair, opportunities, trip ideas. And then Graham found it. The thing that froze his blood. A voice chat accidentally backed up. Colton talking to a buddy. Bro, this Danielle woman is such an easy mark. Pays for everything. Thinks I'm going to change my life for her. As long as the cash keeps coming, I'll keep her hooked. A cruel laugh. Got another one, too. Vivian. Older. These lonely married types are the easiest. They'll do anything for attention. Graham listened 3 times. By the third, something inside him settled, not with peace, but with icy clarity. When Danielle came downstairs later, Graham was waiting at the table, the coffee in front of him untouched. His voice was calm, almost eerie in its steadiness. He told her to arrange for the boys to stay with her parents that weekend. They needed to talk. She tried to explain, but he cut her off. Either she'd call her parents or he would, and he'd tell them why. The next 2 days were a quiet hell. They existed in the same home without speaking. Graham slept in the guest room, ate meals alone, and avoided her eyes. On Thursday, he called a family law attorney named Marcus Webb. Marcus laid out the facts. In Texas, you didn't need to prove adultery to divorce, but evidence of money spent on an affair mattered for asset division. Graham began collecting everything. On Friday, while Danielle was at work, he found her old gratitude journal. Recent entries weren't about gratitude at all. They were love-drunk ramblings about Colton and her fear of leaving the family for him. He photographed each page. Saturday afternoon, the boys were gone. The house was still. Danielle stood in the kitchen when Graham entered carrying a thick manila folder. Sit, he said. He laid the evidence out piece by piece. The bank statement highlighted in yellow, the printed messages, the photos, and finally the transcript of Colton's cruel audio message. Read it aloud, he said. Danielle begged him not to. He insisted. Her voice cracked as she read. Halfway through, she broke down, dropping the page. You were never special to him, Graham said quietly. You were a paycheck. She tried to defend herself. She tried to explain. She tried to blame loneliness, routines, emotional distance. Graham listened, then responded with a measured calm that made his words hit even harder. He told her she could have asked for counseling, honesty, anything but betrayal. When she asked what he planned to do, his answer came without hesitation. He was filing for divorce. Papers were already being prepared. She could hire her own lawyer or accept the terms. Her share of the assets would be reduced by the amount she'd funneled into her affair. Custody would follow Texas guidelines. The boys would stay with him. Danielle whispered, broken, asking how they'd explain it to kids. We'll tell them the truth, Graham said, gently. But truth. They deserve that much. She begged to fix things. She begged for therapy. She begged for another chance. Graham shook his head. For 8 months, he said, you woke up every day and chose him. And you lied every night when you said you loved me. I can forgive pain. I can't forgive a life built on lies. He stood, gathered the documents, and walked away. Their marriage ended not with shouting, but with the quiet finality of a man who had already mourned, already broken, and already rebuilt the part of himself that still stood. And Danielle, left at the table, finally understood the cause of the choices she had made.